What does community look like for young adults in our church? That is a question we are going to tackle along with tons of other fun topics this week. So with that in mind, welcome to the Pure Heart Church podcast. My name is Zach Good. I have the awesome opportunity to be the producer on this podcast, and I think that we have a great episode for you today. I am here with Josh and Samantha Henson.
Yes.
This is going to be a really fun episode. Fun fact, these guys just got married.
Yep.
Yes,
What was
we
it,
did.
1 month ago? Not
3
even?
weeks.
3 weeks ago.
Just
Yeah.
Oh
3
my
weeks
gosh.
ago.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, these guys do some really awesome stuff on staff, so I'm going to kind of let you introduce yourself, kind of say what you do. We'll start with Josh.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Josh. Have the opportunity to run Heart College here at Pure Heart Church. And so what Heart College is a leadership development program for young adults who maybe feel the call to ministry or feel like they want to grow in leadership. We have an option for an online degree. There's a couple different ways that you can pair serving in the church, gaining a degree, getting internship experience, getting some credits for it, just kind of building up this next generation of leaders.
Yeah, that was incredible. What you guys do is really cool, so love seeing it. Samantha, what about you?
Yeah. Well, I'm Samantha, and I'm the Heart Young Adults Director at Pure Heart.
Yep.
So, generally on Wednesday nights, it's basically our young adults ministry. It's not quite like youth, but it's also not like a regular adult service. It's our fun little, like our own little mix of it. But it's kind of ages 18 through 25 roughly. During the school year, we meet at the church on Wednesday nights. We come together, we spend time in community, we worship, we generally have like a small message of some sorts, and then we'll get into cruise, and then we'll just kind of continue to hang out after that, have fellowship together. And then during the summer, we meet a little bit more like every other week. So right now we're doing a Bible study on the book of James. So yeah, it's basically, that's the gist of it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So Josh, what does Heart College look like in a week of just like week to week? What do you guys do?
Yeah. So Heart College on a week-to-week basis has the opportunity to come in to see the behind the scenes of the church. A lot of the times everyone knows what a Sunday looks like, but they don't know how church leaders get to a Sunday. And so building up those leaders to see what it looks like behind the scenes. So we get to come in on a Wednesday. We get to do a staff meeting together. They get to see how staff interacts all together. We'll take them to do a leadership lab, which is leadership development, kind of hone in on different areas of it. Have different pastors come in from the church, from around the valley, that can share just leadership aspects, what they wish they would have learned as a young leader, what they wish they would have known going into ministry or other areas of the church or just world in general. And then we'll all stay together. We'll have lunch together, have a little time in between to be able to then go into their hands-on practicum experience. And so they'll spend the last couple hours of the day with us on Wednesdays doing practicum experience. And then for those who do the degree-seeking side, we have a Bible study that we'll also go through on another day of the week, where we also do a separate book reading. So we have a book of the Bible that we get to walk through, and then a leadership development book as well. And so try to have a spiritual aspect for a Bible study, have a chapel, but they also get to see different sides of leadership and learn from other leaders as well. And so it kind of goes through a couple days a week, depending on what aspect of the program you do, and then serve on Sundays, be able to see what those teams do on Sundays, because after you see the build-up during the week, you get to see how that plays out on a Sunday, or if they get to join longer-term projects or different opportunities to get their hands to or learn from active pastors in the Valley.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's something like I wish that I would have had access to in college or like known about in college. Because it's so important. Like you guys came in here, you got to work in our studio.
Yeah.
And it was
fun.
really cool because like, it was like these students were getting to do stuff like hands-on.
Yeah.
They're getting to like handle the cameras, and then they were getting to have like, they'd each do a sermon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you guys use those sermons for stuff too, right?
Yeah, they are now posted to the website. We posted the sermons on Instagram. We posted the interviews on our website, heartcollege.org. But also just thank you to you for teaching them and walking them through that. I was thinking the same thing. Like, I wish I had that going through college, like having the opportunity to get a more like curated process rather than kind of just hoping to see what you can find, even though I was super blessed to find Pure Heart, be able to find this opportunity to be able to find a team that like invests into you. But the way you invested into these Heart College students was super impactful, and they were able to take it and use it right away, because the next week we kind of came down and were like, hey, can we borrow the studio? And they knew what to do. So immediately, just after like one day of teaching them, they were ready to go and have fun.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was such a blessing to have those guys. Speaking of college, you guys both went to GCU at the same time that I went to GCU. And we were just having a conversation like not long before this, and we found out that Josh and I were like in the same friend group, and did not know each other like at that time until later, and like stuff like that. Yeah, we have like that was such a fun experience. Like college is such a small world. But like how would you say that your college experience at GCU? Did you say that did that influence any of the decisions that you made coming into ministry? Anything like that?
Absolutely for me. I mean, going into college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was just kind of like, okay, undecided for now. I just kind of went with the business route because it's basic. You can kind of use it with anything. So I did hospitality management. That was technically my major, which I picked because of the heart behind hospitality, servant leadership. So I just like really loved that concept. And so going through college, I was just kind of like, dang, I have no idea what I want to do. Kept praying. I was just like, Lord, like, you know, like if you open a door for me somewhere, like I want to like walk in obedience through that. But I will say I like my freshman year of college definitely, you know, was learning who I was, trying to figure out like, life, you know, first time out of, not that I'm from here. So, you know, my family was close, but definitely a new level of independence I hadn't had yet. And for those that go to GCU, we have what's called life groups. I don't know if you ever went to one of those, but they're Bible studies that are held on like every floor of the dorms or apartments. And so I started going to my life group and I was like, man, I love this. Like, I want to keep growing. I want to keep learning. And I actually knew, a family friend knew the person who oversaw life groups, which was kind of like a fun connection, which is just kind of funny because
I'll get to it. Yeah.
But so I ended up like applying to be a life leader the next year. So I was a life leader for 3 out of my 4 years at GCU. And that alone, I think, drastically changed my walk with the Lord. So I'm just super grateful for that. And, but in that process, I just really started to like fall in love more and more with this idea of, you know, sharing the Bible with people, having those like one-on-one conversations, checking in on people like intentionally, like just having a lot of those like more ministry moments that at the time I didn't realize was ministry, to be honest. My sophomore year of college, so my first year as a life leader, I ended up getting a job here as an admin for our grow team. And it was just going to kind of be like a through college, just like make extra money. So I had 2 jobs. So it was just kind of like making like, you know, paying the bills type thing so I could do fun things too. So it was just kind of working with no intention to like, I was like, I'm not going to stay here. I'm not meant to work in ministry. When I graduated from college, I was like, I don't think I can go into hospitality, or at least not in the level that my degree taught it. I was like, I don't think that's where the Lord wants me. And I started serving in youth, which is where we met. And in that, it was actually at a youth event that I realized I felt called into ministry, and I was like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? I was like, I'm just an admin. I don't know what to do. I don't know what this means, like, you know, all that stuff. And the way the Lord worked through it honestly was amazing, because like I love college and I love the way that you get to really build a community with college students. And so the way that the Lord opened the doors and the timing of it, I was able to step into this position right after graduating. So I got to be really like, you know, like I'm a little bit, I don't really know what I'm saying right there. Sorry.
No, it's good.
But all that to say, long story short, college helped me a lot by being a life leader and just kind of throwing me into that of, you know, how do you walk alongside people when they're struggling through things. And I was not expecting to be in ministry, but, you know, the Lord surprises us, and I told God I'd be obedient to where he called me, and here we are.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that you guys get to focus on that age group, because I think oftentimes when people think of ministry, you know, people try to get plugged in churches, and there's like, you know, you've got groups that there's the high school groups, and then after that, you've got like young married groups and all that stuff. And then you have this gap.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, and you're like, and then there's these college kids or maybe people who just got out of college. They're just young adults, trying to meet new people, find relationships, and like grow in their faith with God around other like-minded, like-aged people. And I think a lot of times like that age group can get overlooked.
Well, it's actually really sad. This is, I think, one of the reasons why I feel like the Lord really put young adults in my heart as a passion when in learning some of this stuff is this age group that we have for young adults, kind of that general like 18 to 25, is probably the biggest age group that walks away from the Lord.
Absolutely.
Like during that period. And I think a lot of it is because they feel overlooked. And I mean, I'm not sure on that like statistically, but like I can just say out of conversations with people, like, like people, that age group wants community.
Yeah.
And if they can't find that at church, it makes it really hard. Yeah. So the goal is to combat that statistic of, like that age group is not going to be that high of a percentage that walks away from the Lord. We don't want to see that.
Mm-mm.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. The statistic, or like when they're coming out of high school, is that I think 8 out of 10 students, when they graduate high school, will walk away from the church or walk away from faith and not want to come back. Maybe because there's not a place in the churches that they grew up in, or they go to college and they get this new sense of independence and they're like, maybe I don't need this. Maybe it was my parents' faith, or just having that opportunity to still connect with them, make sure that they have a spot to connect with the Lord, but connect with others in that too. And so just 80% is just way too high of a number. But I would be scared to know what Gen Alpha's number is going to be, because I would love to pray that it'd be better, but with the way that trends are going, who knows where we'll be at.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember, because I was also a life leader at GC, I remember. And, a lot of people think like, oh, like college students, it's easy. Like they'll come in, you're at a Christian university. Like they're going to be eager to learn all that stuff. And no, it's like, like I remember you're like knocking on doors, like, hey, like, trying to get people excited about Jesus. But it's like people leave their homes. They don't have their parents encouraging them to go to church anymore. Yeah. And maybe some of them don't have cars. They don't have, and so, it's a super important age group where it's like now all of a sudden you went from being under your household rules, things like that, and you have to make all these decisions on your own all at once. And if church is not one of those decisions, it's hard to go back. So that's really cool. So what are some of the ways in both of your ministries that you're kind of looking at to help encourage people to dig into ministry or to come to church? What are some ways that you found that, hey, this works? Like this gets people excited about God?
I think it's a little more interesting with Heart College in a sense, because they've already fully surrendered. Excuse me, fully surrendered their lives to Christ, and now they're discerning something different. They're discerning if they want to like take that next step deeper to like work in a church maybe. And so how do we equip them to have those conversations as they go out, as they talk to friend groups, or as they're at their college campuses, if they're at their workplaces? How do you then turn what the Lord has done in you? How do you like share that with others? How do you build connections outside of the church? Maybe that helps an invitation to church, helps them bring it in, but it's more of a kind of development of that side of maintaining your passion. And when you maintain your passion and get excited about something, people will follow passion, or they'll see excitement. They'll be like, oh, this is fun. This is exciting. I mean, that was like one of the things of GCU culture. Like once something gets exciting, everyone flocks to it. That's both a blessing and a curse at GCU, in my opinion. But there's things behind it that I saw that were super fun. I enjoyed a lot of the things that were fun. But then there's an aspect of like it was so short-lived at certain points. When it gets excited, it just becomes a trend for a moment and then falls away. And if it's something spiritual, I don't want it to fall away, especially in future leaders, especially in someone who's going to go try to evangelize the gospel, because the gospel is never fading. His words never return void. And so how does that impact how you lead and share it with others?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say for young adults, I think probably two, and I don't mean this to sound like broad, but two really big things is community and then discipleship. Because you're not going to have someone come back if they don't feel connected. Right. And so I think that's been one thing that our team's really worked on this last year, is making sure that every person that comes in feels seen. Or at least that's the goal. And so first and foremost, like making sure they feel seen, making sure they feel valued, and like, we're not just like, it's not another conversation, just check off. Like we're actually intentional with the conversations we have with them. And then trying to get them connected with other people in the group. So I think community is probably one of the biggest things that young adults thrive for. And if they don't find it, that's when they leave. And I can say that out of experience. Like I've struggled with not having community, and it's been one reason I left my old church was because there was no one else my age. And so but I had grown up there since I was literally 3 when I started going there. So, that was a tough decision, but it was because I needed a community. So I would say community is definitely a big one. And that's why we decided to do a Bible study through the summer, even though it switched up what we normally do. But it's been really cool to see. And so that leads into the next one of discipleship. I think our generation, young adults, Gen Z, even Gen Alpha, they are hungry for the truth. They are hungry for the word. And so if we have a place for them to come and learn and to grow, to lean in, they're going to be there. Now they're more likely to come again if they're connected and they have friends. But I mean, it's been a really cool process this summer. We've been meeting almost 2 months every other week for a Bible study. And we've had, I don't know how many people just DM us on Instagram and be like, hey, I don't know anybody, but I saw that you're meeting. Can I show up? And we're like, yes, you can, And so it's been really cool because not only do they show up, but they're opening up. They're sharing things that they're walking through that I'm like, there's people in this group that they've been coming for a year and I don't know this much about them. Yeah. They're just they are open and they're hungry for community and discipleship. So it's really cool to watch. But all that to say, I would say that's probably a big thing that keeps young adults coming. And
yeah, no, there's a strong need for community, especially it's once you get out of college, or maybe if you didn't go to college, and it's how do I meet people? I know my coworkers, but where, you go to church and you're how do I meet people? What service do I get? Where are all the young adults going to service? And so it's really fun to see all you guys at the 10 o'clock service, Dan always likes to call out the college students and young adults. And so it's really cool, the community that you guys have fostered. It's really cool. And seeing the growth that comes out of our college program too. I was hearing some of the sermons that was coming out of here, and I was like, wow, these are mature sermons. Mm-hmm. And so that's been really cool to see from you guys. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Yeah. I want to hear you guys' story. So we'll kind of start maybe with what's the Josh story? What's the Samantha story? And then how you guys met, got married. I'd love to hear a lot of that kind of stuff too. Yeah. So if you want to start us off, Josh, love to hear your story.
The Josh story. It's quite an interesting story. Born and raised in San Jose, California, Bay Area. Don't look at the hat. That's a bad day to wear a non-San Francisco hat. Yeah. Anyways, but born and raised in San Jose, California. Lived there all 18 years of my life until coming to Arizona for college. But through that process of growing up there, went to the same school as a K through 12. And it was a Christian school, and so parents had a heart to see us kind of be in a system or school system where it was a Christian school system, and want to put me and my sister through that, which was both a blessing and a curse. It was learned a ton in the process. It was well known for academics, which is where a lot of the tech companies would send their kids, in a sense, because we get a lot of tech companies in San Jose, and so they want their kids to have a good education as well. It's a private school, so they know it's a little bit above the public schools or something like that, just with the way that some of the families out there look at it, just to make sure the kid's educated. But in the process, it created an aspect because of that culture, because of the tech culture, because of striving for education. It created a mindset in me that was super results based, in a sense. And so if the result wasn't good, I then started attaching a lot of stuff to me that I wasn't good if my results weren't good, especially playing sports out there too. Sports was a huge part of my journey, basketball and baseball a lot through high school. I thought I was going to try to go play baseball in college, try to start talking to colleges, talking to coaches. But then going in through high school, that's where the Lord he succeeded, praise God, that he was able to start placing things in front of me, that brought me back into church, some friends that took me back to church, going to a Christian high school. You're like, oh, you should already be a Christian. I thought I was. And then I encountered God and realized, oh, he's so much bigger than just knowing that Jesus died on the cross and that Noah built an ark. Like, there was so much more that I just did not realize. There's so much more depth to the Bible that I knew was there. I just could not figure it out, like why it wasn't clicking for me, or that why I was going through the things that I was going through, struggling with the things that I was struggling through, until I got back into church in high school. My sophomore year, I went to a camp. So I grew up in a more Baptist. It was a non-denominational, but it leaned more like Baptist style. And so still had like high production worship, a solid sermon, but it wasn't very charismatic at all. And so my friend took me to his charismatic camp within Assemblies of God Church, and at that camp was kind of eye-opening for me. I was like, oh, the Holy Spirit is real, and that he ended up just kind of breaking me down. A lot of the things that I brought up with me, all the sin and weight of it, like I just started to feel it in a different way, broke me down. And then I had a vision. But of course, as any high school boy does, you go back from camp and you backslide and you don't actually follow through what God tells you to do. And so go through another journey, another spiral of like wanting to choose baseball over God again. And then between my junior and senior year of high school is when it kind of just, for the better, like fell apart. Like I had to come to the end of myself, and that's where God stepped in and said, like, you've known it's been me the whole time, but like this time let's do it. And I was like, yeah, this time we're doing it. Like I can't go through that again. I don't want to keep backsliding. I don't want to like live the life I was living. And God, you've revealed yourself in ways that like you are more real than I've ever believed. And I knew you were before, but now I'm ready to give my life to it. I finally had the understanding in my heart that this is God, and like this is true. And if it's true, I'm giving it everything. And so that was where the call to ministry kind of started, I think, in my in that sophomore year vision, and then played out through my senior year of high school, being able to kind of break down a huge shell over me, just of being closed off, being shy, kind of not liking to get super social. I'm still an introvert at heart, but definitely have gotten more comfortable through the grace of God of like wanting to connect with people and just having a heart for people that has grown through college. And I think there's an aspect of just kind of God's grace in the middle of all of it. Like I can't attribute much to myself. Like I was saying, carrying a lot of weight and baggage of like, oh, I'm not worthy. Like, God, look at all of this results that have been sin and been negative, but you tell me that you forgive me. Like, which was just a crazy, like mind-boggling experience for me in high school. And so that was enough to captivate me. And then from there, my senior year of high school, like GCU was the only school that I could physically apply to. And I don't want to like sound extra crazy or spiritual or weird, but like I physically, like the Holy Spirit would like tap on my heart very strongly anytime I started an application to any other college. And so it was super interesting walking through that, because I did a bunch of tours through California schools, a couple Arizona schools. My sister went to Arizona State. She's older than me. Shout out, sis. But I think God knew what he was doing bringing me to GCU. And it was even funny. It was just my last little bit of rebellion when I applied. I was like, oh, let's go into computer science or something. But he was like, no, you know what you need to do. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll be a ministry major, I guess. But I was like, no, I needed to do it. And I knew it would be the best thing for me. But it was fun. Not fun in the moment, but fun looking back and seeing that God was just like orchestrating all these cool things and coming to GCU, doing Christian studies, and eventually after my freshman year jumping into the Barnabas program. It's a pastoral program at GCU, which got me my bachelor's in 3 years, master's in 2 years, just finishing that up this summer. Ooh. Praise God.
Let's go.
And so it's just been a crazy journey. Was a life leader at GCU as well. And so just all of those little things of trying to step into what God has, being a life leader, a head life leader, interning here at Pure Heart with the youth team. And that's kind of where the story kind of comes back with life leading, because it was my sophomore year at GCU, which is when I found Pure Heart, but it was through Pastor John Jennings. And Pastor John Jennings' son led life leaders, led life groups, and I was under him, under his son Chris. And so got to meet Chris, got to learn about him, but also Pastor John was my professor my sophomore year, my fall semester of sophomore year, and I just kept hearing him talk about this church. I was still church hopping, still looking around for a home church in Arizona. And so when I was able to find it one day and connect with him, he immediately walked me over to the youth department. He was like, "Hey, this is Josh. He wants to serve and get plugged in." And Pastor Ryan from there has helped walk me through what ministry looks like, helped walk me through like internships, helped walk me through like what it looks like to serve in church, serve in youth, want to have a heart for the next generation. And because when I thought the call to ministry happened, I was like, oh, I'll just be a head pastor. This is going to happen right after college, being as naive as I was with not knowing anything about church and how it worked and never understanding what a call to ministry may look like. But through the process of college, it's definitely formed a more of a heart for the next generation, young adults, youth, especially with like Heart College, being able to build up those leaders and just having a heart for healthy leadership and seeing it sustained long term. And I think that's kind of the gist of it until we get to our story, but you can kind of give your story.
Yeah.
Let's see. Born and raised here. So you would think you get used to the heat, but you don't. Pretty early on, I was around like 4 or 5. My parents got divorced, so pretty young, and I don't have very many memories of them married. I do have a few, and they're fun, so I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, both of my parents are amazing. I absolutely love them. They are, amazing parents. They love me very well. But I definitely walked through seasons in like junior high and stuff where that really started to hit me. So the church I was going to, I'd been going to since I said I was 3. I remember in junior high, at this time my mom was married to someone else, and I had all these friends who were, for the most part, had like families, like parents who hadn't gotten divorced, and I was just like, Lord, like why did this have to happen to me? Really struggled through it for a while, and just because things with my mom and my stepdad at the time, I'm very grateful I was able to get a baby brother out of their relationship, which I had always wanted, but it just kind of shifted the dynamic in the family a little bit, because there is a difference when, when there is a biological child in a family mix and compared to not. So I definitely struggled through a lot of things in that honestly I don't remember, and I actually thank the Lord for that, because I think it just has helped just healing processes over the time. But I do remember really struggling for a while through like junior high and stuff, because I was just really confused about like, why all of my friends had such like fun, healthy families. And again, my parents were amazing, and I was beyond blessed to have my brother. I absolutely love him. But it was just a situation at the time at that age. I was just like, really? Like, I don't understand this. And I ended up being able to I remember one of my youth services, really just giving all of that to God. And I was just like, okay, my parents are, amazing parents, and the Lord's going to teach me through this, and it's going to be okay. And I just really had that peace. I went to public school, unlike him. So that was also kind of fun in the mix. And there was a lot of like drama with friendships, for most girls, unfortunately. And I did not like drama. And I think a lot of that played into, so I just like feel like there was always something going on at home, and there was always something going on at school. And so I just remember really, really struggling through junior high. And high school was like a fresh start. My mom actually ended up, marriage with that stepdad they ended up divorcing. So I was going through a second divorce, which it was a good thing. It was a good thing, but it was really hard as a junior higher to be going through a second divorce. It just was not, it was not healthy for my mom. It wasn't healthy for me. So the Lord definitely moved in that, and it was really good. And it's actually been really beautiful now. I'm going to skip for a second. Like with our marriage, and just dating, he's been able to be, the Lord's used him in a really good way, for me, because there were things from that marriage that my mom had that honestly impacted me way more than I ever thought. And none of it came out until we were together. And so the Lord's really been able to work through some of that. I think that marriage impacted a lot of my, like, just like insecurities, self-confidence, things like that. And like you already struggle with that as a girl who is going into high school, like, you know, like it's just not fun.
I think everyone struggles with that going into high school.
No,
Oh, yeah.
really. But it was like amplified. And so it was an interesting thing to walk through. But I had, we had family friends who were there for me in a lot of ways that, you know, in the moment, I don't think I saw it. But looking back, I'm really grateful I had them because he mentioned them, but John Jennings and his wife, it was their family. They're like another set of parents for me. They actually like to joke that I'm their adoptive child. So, you know, growing up, they were always there when things were rough. And it was actually really beautiful. I got to see their marriage as, you know, like a God-honoring marriage. And so that was something that I really, like, looked highly towards. They just played such a huge impact in my, I guess, in my journey. Because my mom always had to work. She was always working. She was always providing, doing really good in that. But it just, you know, it played a big role sometimes in just a lot of that mess, I guess. I don't know. So I started, John would always pick me up after school. I would go home with him, and then we'd go to the elementary school where his youngest daughter and my brother went. And then we'd always go hang out with their family after school until my mom got off work. And that was just like the routine, which was really cool because I just got to, again, be around just stability, if that makes sense. You know, a place that there was not a lot going on. And so I definitely feel very blessed to have had that. Towards my upperclassmen, like junior, senior year of high school, I started to get really depressed. I definitely fell into like a pretty good, it wasn't fun. I don't know what it is about junior year of high school, but like everyone you talk to for the most part struggles with some type of like depression. I don't know what it is about junior year. Yeah. Anyways, but I just remember really feeling stuck. The way I would explain it is I was like, there was just this void. Like I literally felt like there was a void in my life. And I could not figure out what to fill it with because I was like, my friends seem happy. Like, you know, like everyone around me was doing so well. Or at least it seemed like. I know everyone has their own issues, but, and then funny enough, I went through this class called Rooted. And it was at my old church, actually. At the time, John Jennings was actually the senior pastor there. And so I went through this class called Rooted. And going through that actually was what helped differentiated my mom's faith from my own. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I know what I need to do to start actually walking with the Lord. And as I started to do this, like I realized I was like, okay, that void's no longer there. Like I'm getting sleep again. I'm not only getting 3 hours of sleep, you know, like all these things. And I just started to see life again, and it was exciting. It made it way better. And I guess after that is when I like started going to GCU. I struggled a lot with like separation anxiety, and I think a good amount of that came actually from the divorce in junior high. Again, so starting to recognize some of these things that I didn't remember, but actually were really impacting me like deep down. And none of my friends were going to GCU, so I knew no one. Which coming from Phoenix, normally you know a few people going to GCU. Yeah. But I actually had one friend from church who like we were friends, but we weren't like super close, whatever. But she was the only person I knew, so we ended up rooming together, and she's now my best friend. She was my maid of honor, so that was really cool. And then it kind of goes into, you know, I started going to college and kind of what I already shared about life groups and stuff, and that's where I feel like the Lord really pulled me back in. And I really started to walk with him more, and I began to realize that like these things that the enemy had a hold on me, and you know, different insecurities, different temptations that I was like, I can't keep falling into this. And so life leading was actually a huge like life change moment for me, I think. So I'm blessed, very grateful for that. And then, like I said, when we started dating, so I actually had never dated before, Josh. Or I had gone on a date, but like I had never had a boyfriend before him. But that was also intentional because there was someone who I saw as a mentor younger in my younger junior high time, who just there was a similar story, and I really wanted to take after that because I was like, I want to protect my heart. And so I struggled a lot with singleness, actually, like a lot. When my best friend started dating in college, it's actually really embarrassing. She started dating, and when I found out that they were dating, I cried. Like I literally cried myself to sleep, as embarrassing as it sounds. But like I struggled with it so hard because especially at GCU, you see couples all over. And I struggled with it so hard. So I started working for John, and I ended up a few months later doing an event called Girlfriends. So for the people that have been at Pure Heart for a little bit, they would know what that is. I did that with Erin Windauer, and so we got to know each other pretty quickly. We were on the same team. She's amazing. Love her. Shout out to her. But John's wife, Gwen, was serving on the team. And I remember her and I were driving together to one of the meetings for Girlfriends, like the leader meeting or whatever, before the event. And she's like... she was like, John and I were having coffee this morning, and he just kind of stopped, and he was like, Gwen, I feel like I just know this guy who would just be perfect for Samantha. And Gwen was like, who is it? And so he told her, but she would not tell me. She would not give me any hints. The only thing she told me is that he went to GCU. I'm like, okay, there's 25,000 students on campus. So I was like, okay, what are the odds that I know who that is? But so I had no clue who he was. I just knew that he was in the same grade as me, that he went to Pure Heart, and that he went to GCU. But I didn't know, I was not plugged in at Pure Heart. I worked at Pure Heart, but I wasn't plugged in very well. And so I was like, I have no idea who this is. So it was just really funny. The reason I bring that up, it ties in. At this time, you had no idea who I was.
No idea at the time, because John hid that from me too. He didn't tell me about it either.
He didn't want to play matchmaker, even though he claims that he was.
Yeah.
So it's a. Yeah.
It was like a secretive matchmaking.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was his own.
So, but funny enough, the reason I brought up Aaron is because in our first month of being at Pure Heart at the same time, Aaron talked with John about us.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So everyone's talking behind our back about us, but not to us. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had no clue. And so we also used to host GLS, so Global Leadership Summit. So it was the same year, 2021, that summer. I was sitting with the youth team. I didn't really know them that well. I just knew Aaron because we were on the same team. Mm-hmm. So I was sitting, because, her husband's the youth pastor. Right. So it was really funny because, Ryan looks at me, he's like, are you dating anybody? I was like, no.
Now Ryan catches wind.
So he pulls up a photo of Josh, and he's like, do you know who this is? Do you know Josh Henson? And I was like, I have no clue who that is. And he was like, well, he's a life leader at GCU. And I'm like, I've never seen him in my life.
Like, there's 200 life leaders at GCU. Yeah.
Exactly. And so they're telling me all these things about how amazing he is. Like, they're literally talking him up. At this point, I still don't know that that's who Gwen had told me about, because I was like, I just didn't know. But the thought came up. I was like, maybe this is who it was. But they're talking talking him up like crazy, like amazing guy, all this stuff. And so he still had no clue who I was.
No, not a clue.
But so it was after that, that next year, because naturally they showed me a picture of him. I now knew who he looked like, or what he looked like. I was like, oh, he's kind of cute. So I started noticing you at life leader meetings, but I was way too nervous. I was like, I'm not going to say anything to him. Yeah. So the next summer, summer of 2022, they didn't have leaders for one of the grades for girls for camp. And I can't tell you how many times they asked me. He was interning in the office at this time too.
That's when I just started interning. That summer I was starting to intern more.
So I may have walked over to the youth team more than I wanted him to notice me. I would be like, hey, let's meet. Shake hands. Just kidding. It worked.
That is when I started to notice you a little more, but we still never met.
No, we didn't. I wasn't going to make the first move. I was like, eh. Yeah. I was like, I need a man that pursues me. So we're going to wait. God will bring him when the time's right. But summer 22, I ended up serving at camp. And obviously I was going in, the students that I was with had been through a lot. They had lost a lot of leaders. So, that's really pivotal for youth students too. Consistency is a huge thing. So I went in with the headspace of, I'm not going in to meet him. Like, this is not like, I was there for the students. I wanted to, create good relationships with them because I was going to start serving. I was so nervous. Oh my gosh. Because I'd never been to youth camp as a leader and I'd never met the girls. So I was just like jumping full in.
Yeah. One heck of a time to start.
Yeah. So, but I had seen him around the office, hadn't never met him, and so I was just like, honestly, it probably won't happen. It was the first night of camp. We played Capture the Leader, which if you don't know what that is, all the leaders go hide in the woods at night in the dark, and the students are released, and it's like a madhouse. They come to try and find you. It's actually kind of scary.
They will trample you.
Yes. So, but I had never been to this campground before, and I didn't have a phone with me, so I didn't have a flashlight. So, first mistake.
Such a rookie. Literally.
But one of the rounds, it was our last round, I think, actually. All the leaders decided that we were going to hide together. And so there was like a point up in the camp where you had to run uphill. I was running after all the leaders and I totally biffed it. Like I have a scar on my knee to prove it.
Yeah.
Still there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So my knee was bleeding. Like it was like blood dripping down my leg. But I pushed through. I was like, I don't want him to see this because I had never met him. And I was like, that's so embarrassing. And our camp nurse patched it up for me. And literally right after that, I was with another leader. We were walking past the picnic tables and he was kind of walking over and they started talking because they already knew each other.
Yeah.
And so just kind of talking. And then she was like, oh, I'm going to go. I can't remember what she was going to go do. And then he turns to me. And he was like, puts out his hand, like, oh, I'm Josh. I've seen you around. Like, what's your name? So we started talking, and it was at nighttime after Capture the Leader. Okay. Our very first conversation together. And Ryan can prove it. So anyways, we met at camp briefly. That was the only conversation we had at camp. So first day of camp, we talked, we met, we talked for a while. We talked a lot longer than I think we realized. Like, we just, hit it off. Like, honestly, we were just, getting to know each other in the middle of camp. All the students were getting ready for bed, so it's okay. We were with our students, but for the most part. But it was, when leaders were hanging out. So we just kind of started hanging out with other youth leaders, and that was kind of how we started to, hang out. And then he... honestly, we had some mutual friends at GCU too. So we ended up hanging out with Pure Heart people, but then also with some of these people, which is really fun because now they're married. We got to be at their wedding. They got to be at our wedding. So it's been really fun. They live in Arizona. So it's really cool that they were a part of all of it. But yeah, so we really started hanging out in friend settings. And then you asked me out and here we are.
So since we all kind of got married around the same time, things like that, y'all just had your wedding. I think it would be fun to play our own little verbal version of the shoe game.
Okay.
So I've got some questions here that I'm gonna ask you guys. These can get kind of dangerous. So here we go. Who's the better driver?
Me.
I'm the better driver.
Okay.
This is actually one that we not. We argue about it.
For fun. It's
For
not
fun, yeah.
serious.
No, not serious.
Not serious at all, but I think I'm the better driver.
And I think I'm the better driver.
Okay.
We may not find a common ground on that one.
Who was the scholar? Got the best grades?
We both got pretty good grades.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's cheating to say I'm in a master's right now, but...
Okay, but does that mean your grades were better than mine?
You can check those transcripts.
Hey, I was president's list all the way through college.
That's awesome.
Just saying. But so were you, so...
Yeah.
Probably him.
I don't know.
We'll say him.
Okay. Who's more creative?
I think she is.
Me.
Yeah.
She has a really, really cool creative side. So, she created a lot of the stuff for the wedding. So there's a creativity, arts and crafts aspect of creativity, but she's also just creative in general.
Who is the best at cooking?
Me.
Yep. Who's the best at keeping surprises?
Josh.
I did. The engagement story was a whole wild. I had to create a whole fake engagement, but I had to keep it. Well, because I'm bad at keeping secrets, but to keep that one, I did everything I could.
Now you're better at keeping them than I am, though.
Yeah. Who is the better dresser?
I think she is. I dress basic. I don't know.
I feel like I dress basic too, but sure, we'll say me. Why not?
I just want to point out for those of you that are not watching, you guys are wearing like the same outfit. You got white shoes, jeans, and a black shirt. Was that on purpose or?
Well, you see, Josh actually loves to twin with me.
Not always, but when it happens, it's fun.
What do you mean? One time before we were married, I was calling him. I was like, I don't know what to wear to work. And he was like, kind of just like, why don't you wear like the young adults shirt? It's a Wednesday. We have young adults, whatever. And I was like, okay, fair point. He comes to pick me up and he's wearing the same exact shirt. I was like, you didn't tell me you were wearing that. He was like, yeah, I wanted to match with you.
Yeah. That one day I wanted to match, I guess.
So it's just funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. But it is really funny.
I feel like sometimes like it even just like once you get married, it just happens by accident.
That was kind of more so today.
We both get dressed.
Okay.
And you're like, oh, let's roll with it. Let's roll with it.
I didn't want to change again.
Nope.
Yep.
Okay, I got a couple more. So, who said I love you first?
Josh did.
Okay. And who's in control of the remote for the TV?
Probably more you.
We don't watch TV much.
Not a lot, no.
But usually it's like we have a show that we'll watch when we eat sometimes. And so it's like agreed like, hey, do we want to watch Friends or something? And we'll just go put it on. But we don't usually sit down and watch TV much.
No. He's normally the one pulling it up though, so I guess him.
Yeah.
Yeah, well this has been really fun. I'm glad we got to bring you guys on. You guys are such an awesome part of our team here at Pure Heart, and I've gotten to witness firsthand what you guys are doing, and it's making a huge difference in the community here. And so, yeah, we're just so thankful that we have you guys. And so if you're in college or if you're college age, talk to these guys.
Yes.
Come find us.
Please do.
Well, anyways, I think that's all we have for today. But thank you guys so much for coming on. You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much, Zach. We appreciate you and all you do.
Thanks so much for tuning in with us today. We have a lot of awesome episodes coming up that you are not going to want to miss. So if you liked what you heard today, make sure that you follow and subscribe to our podcast so that you don't miss an episode. We love you, Pure Heart family, and we will talk to you next Tuesday.